women belong in the home, and definitely not in roles of leadership. At least that's what we were taught in the faith, that their duty and only sole purpose in life is to be homemakers and mothers and wives. And they don't need to be out in the workforce. They don't need to be out in politics, leading a bunch of capable men and telling them what to do. And we talk about this in our latest episode of Drop the Stones, of why it just doesn't make sense. When you spend 2 seconds thinking about it, it makes absolutely zero sense. Women are fully capable of doing anything a man can do in leadership. I worked for a number of different places and a number of different bosses, both male and female. And honestly, when you look at the overall picture and how things were done and the production and anything that came out of it, there really was no difference. Yeah, each one had their own different idiosyncrasies, and each one had things that annoyed me. Each one had things that I found positive and fulfilling in working for them. But at the end of the day, everything got done. It wasn't a sign of incompetence or anything like that going around. It was, they were the boss, they got shit done, and there really was no difference whether it was male or female running it. So what is the deal? And kind of what we talk about is just that it's this fear of loss of privilege and loss of control. Because we've taught it in all of our religious texts and saying and assigning this to the value of this is God's ordained rule. God tells us we can't have women in control of men. That's unheard of. And all it is that it sets up a system in which men now have a leg up. They've eliminated 50% of the possible competition in the world because their God ordained it necessary and said this isn't allowed. So now we only have to compete against other men and don't have to even worry about women coming up against us. And that just is such a privilege and such an advantage to sit here and claim this and then say to the women, we know better because we're men and God speaks to us directly and this is the rule. It sounds more like a system that was set up a bunch by a small energy men with weak constitutions and weak faith and weak standards and morals and everything else that couldn't handle a little healthy competition with women. And another thing that also comes in here is this fear of being shown up because they have to always be right. If they're not right, their whole lives fall apart. Or they have to believe that what they've taught, what they've believed, what they've accepted as truth has to be 100% right all the time. And if any part of it fails, then their whole system fails. So if a woman were to get into leadership, or if a woman were to be a mayor or a senator or a politician and do an excellent job, it disproves their whole point. That this isn't allowed, this isn't right, they're not capable of doing it. Their little sensible discretions and personalities can't handle the stress and anxiety of doing this manly labor. In all actuality, they're just trying to protect themselves, to show that, no, when we come home and say, oh man, I've had a tough day at work, now take care of me, you wouldn't understand. When women get in the workforce, when they get into jobs, to politics and everything else and realize, this guy's been milking it for a long time. They're getting exposed, and it's fearful of them to do this. That's why they want to keep doing it, because women are just as capable and possibly even better at handling situations with men and then the men that are in control right now. Because what I found is that a lot of these women and a lot of men that support women have some characteristics that help in leadership: empathy, compassion, understanding, willing to listen and learn to other people, willing to accept that they might be able to change their minds on things. And that's progress, that's growth, that shows emotional and mental maturity. Something drastically lacking in much of our leadership today, that they can't grow, they can't change, they can't learn from others. They have to be right 100% of the time, and they have to be the alpha. It's a toxic and poisonous mentality that's corrupting our country as we speak. I'm all for it. Let more women run things. Men have destroyed stuff enough for centuries now. Maybe it's time we let women have a shot at it, see if they can repair anything that's going on now.